After Prometheus landed in a safe area, the group disembarked and was welcomed by Zylarians. Even though the invasion had taken a toll on her, Princess Serafina was present, her presence dominating and elegant. She said, "Thank you so much for coming," in a tone that was both thankful and tired. "There is not enough time. Our defenses are failing, and the Drakari are merciless." Jonathan and his group got to work right once, evaluating the Drakari's menace and the Zylarians' scientific capability. She guided them through the destroyed cities, and the princess described their dire situation. "We are a peaceful people that value harmony and knowledge. On the other hand, the Drakari are born conquerors. They have already destroyed several nearby systems," she said, her resolve and sorrow evident in her eyes. The sophisticated but delicate society of the Zylarians particularly impressed Sirah. "Your technology is incredible, but it's clear you're not built for war," she said. Serafina, the princess, nodded. "We thus require your assistance. We've heard tales about the resilience and resourcefulness of humans. We may have a shot if you helped." The group gained further knowledge on the Drakari as they planned. They were a vicious species, consumed only by a desire for dominance and power. Their tactics were brutal and their ships well-armored. The Zylarians' greatest chance was to combine human strategic skill with their cutting-edge technology. As the first collaborative operations got underway, tensions were high. Human inventiveness, paired with Zylarian technology, started to change the tide in little battles. But the Drakari were unrelenting, fast adjusting to every new move. Working closely with Princess Serafina, Jonathan, and Sirah, developed a relationship and mutual respect. The more time they shared, the more Jonathan was pulled to the princess's compassion and courage. Even in the worst of situations, a glimmer of optimism appeared in him. But in the middle of the wins and defeats, Jonathan came to a terrifying realization. The Drakaris were overly accurate and their knowledge was excessive. Among the Zylarians, there had to be a traitor providing intelligence to the enemy. It was distressing to learn that there was a mole inside their ranks. Suspicion grew and trust was undermined. Princess Serafina appeared especially shaken, her black eyes filled with treachery. She said, "We have to identify the traitor and put an end to them. Our survival depends on it." It became a race against time to find the traitor. Working nonstop, the Zylarians and crew examined every move and exchange of messages. While accusations were flying, tensions were boiling up, but Jonathan didn't hesitate. He was aware that their success depended on capturing the traitor. At last, the traitor was exposed, a senior Xylarian official who had fallen victim to the Drakari's manipulation. Although the news shocked everyone, it also strengthened their determination. Now that the mole was gone, they could concentrate on one last, desperate attempt to drive the invaders away. The tension was not much reduced even after the traitor was removed. Overhanging the Zylarians and their human friends was the shadow of treachery. Unity was a far-off goal, and trust was brittle. As they got ready for the next stage of their strategy, Jonathan felt the responsibility of being the leader. Princess Serafina never wavered in her resolve. Zylarians and humans alike were inspired by her leadership as things became increasingly dire. The princess convened the council to plan the ultimate fatal attack against the Drakari. "We need to be brave if we want to win," she declared, her voice full of passion. "We have to attack the core of their directive. We may stand a chance if we can cut off their head." The scheme was bold. Their headquarters, the Drakari flagship, would be the target of a frontal attack. It was an extremely risky yet advantageous tactic, but there was no other choice. There was not much time left, and Drakari's clutch tightened around her every day that went by. For the expedition, Jonathan, Sirah, and a select group of top-notch scientists and troops trained. They underwent intense training, fusing human fighting techniques with cutting-edge Xylarian technology. Error was not an option. The anxiety increased as the assault day drew near. Jonathan and Princess Serafina shared a private time apart from the commotion of getting ready. Perched on a balcony, they had a view of the now ravaged city of Zylaria. She inquired gently, her customary assurance tinted with vulnerability, "Do you believe we can do this?" "We must do." Jonathan looked back at her. "For your people and ours." Despite the chilly night air, Her touch seemed warm as she placed a hand on his arm. "I'm grateful, Jonathan. When we had none, you gave us hope." He laughed, connecting with the princess on a deep level. "We'll overcome this." In unison, the attack day broke with a feeling of grim resolve. The team climbed aboard their specially adapted vessel, an elegant example of how human and Zylarian creativity might coexist. Upon nearing the Drakari flagship, the magnitude of their mission became evident. There was chaos and furious fighting. The Drakari fleet was unrelenting, its ships gathering like hornets in a hive. But the united Zylarian and human crew battled with unrivaled determination. They broke through the defenses of the flagship and made their way along the passageways to the command center. Leading the charge were Serafina and Jonathan, whose combined talents complemented each other in a battle and strategic dance. Important assistance was given by Sirah and the others, who turned down vital systems and repelled Drakari troops. A terrifying scene met them when they arrived in the center of the flagship. In front of them appeared the Drakari commander, a hideous figure of hate and strength. There was a malicious intelligence in his eyes. He screamed, "Fools," with a voice like nails on a blackboard. "You cannot stop the Drakari." "We'll see about that," Serafina said in a firm tone. "For Xylaria and for all those you've destroyed." Serafina and Jonathan were pushed to their absolute limits by the fierce conflict. Although the Drakari commander posed a great threat, their combined might was ultimately too much for him to overcome. Serafina knocked him down with a last, crushing punch. The systems of the flagship failed when the Drakari leader fell. As Jonathan and Serafina hurried to flee, the ship's self-destruction mechanism sprang into action. With the flagship detonating in a blinding glare, they just managed to escape with their spaceship rushing away. The Drakari fleet was rocked by the flagship's demolition. Lost for direction and guidance, they stumbled. Seizing the chance, the Zylarians and their human allies launched a counteroffensive that drove the Drakari back. There was a combination of relief and sadness following the struggle. Xylaria had survived, but at a heavy cost. In the middle of her capital's ruins, Princess Serafina stood, her heart burdened with grief yet encouraged by the prospect of reconstruction. Jonathan stepped closer to her, resolve and tiredness imprinted on his face. "We did it." With tears sparkling in her eyes, she grinned. "Indeed, we did. I'm grateful, Jonathan. We have a chance because of your boldness." Their friendship became stronger as they hugged. It was a time of triumph and fresh starts. The word of their achievement went viral back home on Earth. With the success of their first intergalactic union, humanity exulted. A new age of unity and cooperation began with the alliance with the Zylarians. Though they came back as heroes, Jonathan and Sirah's hearts belonged to Xylaria. Add was the prospect of more growth and cooperation. Together, they would forge a better future as the wounds from battle would heal. The relationship between Earth and Xylaria strengthened over the course of several months. Collaborative scientific projects and cross-cultural interactions prospered, ushering in a new era of collaboration. With their skills bridging the gap between their species, Jonathan and Sirah routinely traveled between planets. Even with the growing calm, Jonathan couldn't get rid of the uneasy sensation. There had been a persistent suspicion due to the Drakari's infiltration and the mole's treachery. He was constantly examining the Zylarians' behavior, looking for anything that may indicate ulterior motives. Jonathan noticed something strange one evening while he was analyzing data from recent joint operations. Long after their commander had been defeated, the Drakari continued to receive supplies and reinforcements. They had inside help from someone. When Jonathan saw the ramifications, his heart fell. Not just the traitor they had discovered was behaving this way. A more extensive plot was underway, one that put Xylaria and Earth in danger. Jonathan confided in Sirah, determined to find out. Because they knew that trust was a finite resource, they made the deliberate decision to look into it. Their investigation took them far into the military and political echelons of Xylaria, where mysteries were concealed behind every corner. The further they examined, the more obvious it was that the conspiracy had strong roots. Both human and Xylarian high authorities were implicated. The traders' desire for power drove them to make any sacrifice to fulfill their ambitions. Eventually, the route brought them to an underground complex located on Xylaria. Tension hovered over Jonathan and Sirah as they made their way through the complex. Beyond their wildest expectations, they found what was inside. Traders coordinated their efforts with the Drakari from this secret center. They were developing weapons and technologies that were far beyond anything they had ever seen. They were shocked to learn that the Drakari invasion was only the start. A bigger, darker scheme was taking shape. A voice sounded through the building, terrifying them as they gathered evidence. "I see you found our little secret." Turning, Jonathan and Sirah saw a man emerge from the shadows. It was one of the most important Zylarians, someone they had complete faith in. A spark of malicious glee filled his gaze. "You've been a thorn in our side for too long," he grumbled, "but it ends here." The exchange was violent. With their expertise and experience up against the traitors' merciless cunning, Jonathan and Sirah battled valiantly. As the fight continued, the facility's alarms went out, calling in reinforcements from both sides. They appeared to be surrounded, but then a band of devoted Zylarians and human warriors charged in. Leading the onslaught was Princess Serafina herself, her expression a mask of rage and resolve. She said, her voice full of power, "Stand down. Your betrayal ends now." The betrayer knew he was defeated even as he mocked. He gave one more angry glance before being cuffed and brought into prison. The depth of the scheme was revealed, and the facility was secured. The disclosure has far-reaching consequences. The relationship between Earth and Xylaria was put to the ultimate test when trust was broken. But amid the destruction, a fresh determination surfaced. Once the traitors were eliminated, a fresh dedication to harmony and honesty was established. Princess Serafina spoke in a calm, unwavering voice as she addressed a group of humans and Zylarians. "Despite treachery and deceit, we remain together and more powerful than before. We shall not sever our tie. We shall construct a peaceful and cooperative future together." Sirah and Jonathan stood next to her, hope brimming in their hearts. They had a common goal and determination, and although the road ahead would be difficult and lengthy, they were prepared to face it. Following the revelation of the plot, a precarious calm was established. Rebuilding human Zylarian trust was a delicate and gradual process. While connections and defenses were strengthened via concerted efforts, the specter of treachery persisted. As the months stretched into years, Jonathan and Sirah committed themselves to making sure the partnership remained solid. Their relationship with Princess Serafina became stronger as they toiled ceaselessly to mend the scars caused by the Drakari invasion and the plot that followed. But Jonathan's anxiety never completely went away. He would frequently become lost in contemplation, wondering about the scope of the Drakari's power and the depths of the conspiracy. The extent to which the rival had penetrated their ranks was demonstrated by the finding of the subterranean facility. A fresh message from the skies appeared one tragic evening. It was a distress signal, the same kind that had led Jonathan and Sirah to Xylaria in the first place. The signal led to a far-off system that neither humans nor Zylarians had previously been aware of. The message was a desperate cry for assistance that sounded strangely similar. "The globe is being attacked. We request your assistance." With worried expressions on their faces, the council met right away. "This is something we cannot overlook," Princess Serafina said. "We must investigate and offer our assistance." Sirah and Jonathan offered to take charge of the mission. As they readied themselves for yet another expedition into the unknown, memories of their previous voyage echoed in their thoughts. There was stress during the travel to the faraway system. With a shared objective, the crew of their new vessel, Endeavor, consisted of both new and experienced members. A planet with a war-torn surface came into view as they got closer to the signal source. As they descended to the planet's surface, a group of the planet's citizens welcomed them. They were led by a royal woman who identified themselves as Queen Xylaria of the planet Xylaria. She had sapphire-like eyes and green skin. "We appreciate you returning our call," she replied, her voice full of regret and relief. "The Drakari, an unrelenting army, have besieged us. We hope you can assist us like you did Xylaria, as we have heard stories of your bravery." Sirah and Jonathan exchanged a gloomy glance. The threat posed by Drakari was far from gone. It was evident to them when they evaluated the circumstances on Xylaria that the Drakari had modified their strategy. Their tactics were more cunning and their forces more sophisticated. Here, too, were the same characteristics of treachery and deceit that had dogged Xylaria. The crew soon discovered that the Drakari had considerably more ambitious ambitions than they had initially thought. Xylaria was only a component of a bigger plan to conquer several systems and establish an empire of dominance and horror. Jonathan's worries were validated. The plot they had discovered on Xylaria was a component of a larger, darker scheme. The Drakari's desire had no boundaries, and their reach reached the stars. The group came up with a daring scheme since they were determined to stop the Drakari for good. They would attack the Drakari's primary command center, the center of their activities. Although it was an extremely dangerous venture, it was the only method to impair the enemy's capacity to launch galactic wars. Unexpected human, Zylarian, and Xylarian teamwork was needed for the operation. Leading the charge were Jonathan, Sirah, and Princess Serafina, who allied many species with the same objective. The conflict that followed had an enormous scope. As the coalition troops engaged in battle with the Drakari, the skies above Xylaria burned with the heat of battle. The fate of innumerable planets was at risk, and the stakes were higher than ever. Jonathan and Serafina were going to have their showdown with the Drakari Supreme Commander as they broke into the Drakari Command Center. The alien commander was a formidable combination of slyness and power, proof of the Drakari's evil brilliance. Serafina and Jonathan were pushed to their utmost during the vicious battle. However, they prevailed because of their unwavering dedication, which was fueled by the many lives that were at risk. They overcame the Supreme Commander with one last devastating blow, upending the Drakari's hierarchical system. The Drakari soldiers were rocked by the triumph. The Alliance destroyed them as they lacked a leader and were disorganized. At last, the menace that had threatened many worlds was defeated. With the restoration of peace in Xylaria, the Alliance rejoiced in their hard-earned victory. The connections made during intense combat offered a future of harmony and collaboration between worlds. Jonathan, Sirah, and Princess Serafina stood together on Xylaria, thinking back on their voyage. Their adversities had put their fortitude, tenacity, and faith to the test. However, they had triumphed and were now prepared to work together to create a better future. With a hopeful voice, Serafina remarked, "The stars hold many challenges. But as long as we stand together, we can overcome anything." Jonathan nodded, resolve and appreciation filling his emotions. "Here's to the future and the unbreakable bonds we forged." The stars appeared to shine brighter as they looked up at the night sky, bringing with them the promise of a new era of harmony and peace. Generations to follow will be motivated by their struggle's legacy, which proved the strength of solidarity in the face of difficulty.